What's good, people? Welcome back to another video on 8 Count. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the current state of Undisputed. Over in the background, you can see a fight which I recorded the other day of me using Cal Brook up against Canelo Alvarez in online ranked. But I really want to talk to you guys about some of the problems that I find in the game and some of the things which I think, if implemented, could really improve the experience for all players on this game. As always, if you do enjoy the video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. Let me know if I missed anything or if you agree or disagree with me. We're going to kick things off with my number 1 point, which is the stamina. Right now, I just find stamina is very inconsistent. The way you lose stamina sometimes, even when you're landing shots and not throwing too many. The way you lose stamina when you haven't thrown fuck all. The way your opponent can be super fresh heading into the 12th after throwing 1,400 punches. Overall, the stamina sort of model in this game is just kind of broken, and I'm not really enjoying it. I'd like to see players sort of rewarded for landing shots, and for throwing air shots, you should be punished. I think the way the stamina is right now, it's just making the game a horrible sort of place to play. At number 2, I've got the damage system, and I think these two really go hand in hand. I'd say in terms of the damage system right now, you're seeing the majority of fights sort of end in rounds 10, 11, and 12. That's for me anyway, personally. I'm not fighting people, and despite being better than them, I'm hitting them with some hard shots. I'm not getting them out of there very early in fights very regularly. I'd like to see that change in terms of the damage system. And in terms of the vulnerability, there just doesn't seem to be any in this game. I feel like an absolute juggernaut the majority of the time. And it's only if my opponent is able to land like 6 shots in the same sort of place in one flurry that I'm actually going to be buzzed or hurt. I just don't feel like the damage and the vulnerability system is kind of working right now. I feel like if you're fighting someone and they duck into an uppercut, they should be, the damage should multiply in some sort of system. And I think that's the same for if my opponent's moving to their left and I hit them with a right hook and they move straight into it. I think the damage should multiply. And I just think with the damage and stamina and the way it is, the fights really are playing out in some really dodgy styles. And I think that's leading to people doing things like the lead body uppercut to the body, which is certainly something which is broken. But I think that's what caused some of the spam. You're not being rewarded for beating your opponent up if you hit them in so many different areas and you've really put a beating on them. The right side of their face, the left side of their face, right side, left side, and center of the body. If you damage someone all over, you're not being rewarded enough, in my opinion, where you are being rewarded for throwing 15 billion shots all at the right eye, and if they land, you are going to get a rock or something like that. I just don't find the damage and stamina are representative of what I believe this game should be like. In terms of number 3, I want to talk to you about the blocking system. I think blocking is kind of frustrating at times. I feel like the actual blocking system in terms of being able to block certain sides of the body and head is good, but when it comes to the lead body uppercut, for some reason, no matter how you look to defend the body, it just seems to keep, coming through like a sieve. And it's a really disappointing one because it seems to do so much damage and take so much stamina. If you want to win a fight still, you cannot fight the same sort of style fight you wanted to. So the lead body uppercut is certainly broken. And in terms of the blocking, you're just not able to really block it unless you're using the Philly shell. So I'd love to see the blocking sort of change so protecting the body actually mattered. Because as of right now, if they want to use that lead body uppercut, it's just an absolute shambles. And the thing is, people are going, oh, nerf the body uppercut. And I agree, it should be nerfed. In terms of its sort of power in that right now, maybe it is a bit strong. I still want it to be a viable weapon. I think there are a lot of shots in this game, and I think they should all be viable options to use. It's like the people using the leaning straight hand backwards, so the backwards lunging right straight. Sorry, that's a bit of a mouthful. But yeah, it's like people moaning about that. I agree, it is broken, but I don't want it taken out of a game. It should be a weapon that I should be able to use to exit range and, kind of cover myself at the same time. I like that sort of shot, but maybe it is the damage system of it is a bit broken. And I agree with nerfing stuff, but I don't want things removed. That's one thing I want to say. So the blocking system, you know, I want to see that fixed, because right now it's so frustrating. And I don't understand what's taking so long with that one, because it's such a big problem in the game right now. And number 4, I want to talk about footwork. And I guess I love the loose footwork, but it doesn't have any negatives whatsoever. They said it was meant to, you're more, I guess, suspect to taking damage in loose footwork, but I certainly haven't noticed it. I like to use loose footwork quite a lot, because you have so many benefits but no negatives, and I guess normal footwork is a lot slower and less responsive in general. So overall, I would love to see loose footwork slightly nerfed, like maybe a bit of a stamina sort of increase. Nothing crazy, but it should, like, maybe you can't go loose footwork the entire fight. Because as of right now, it's frustrating. But also in terms of the footwork, I find like cutting off the ring such a frustrating sort of thing to do right now in the game. Because if you're using, you know, a smaller fighter and you want to find the inside, you've got to sort of get in positions where you can really damage your opponent. One of the best ways to do that is cutting off the ring and getting them in the corner. But as of right now, your opponents are always it's so easy for them to just walk out of range and kind of walk off to the side and get out of range and get back to the center of the ring. And that's so frustrating. I think if the vulnerability system of landing a right hook as he moves to his left, I think that would make a lot of sense in sort of nerfing and kind of buffing inside fighting and cutting off the ring in general. But I'd like to see maybe a bit more, I guess you could say, responsiveness on the footwork, because right now it's so hard to get off the ring. It's definitely a frustrating thing. At number 5, ghost punches. And for me, you know, ghost punches is just so ridiculous. You know, you just playing, and because of the connection, apparently your opponent's landed a shot, but they haven't on your screen, and it just kind of leaves you confused, right? I think it's all down to the ping, but I've also seen something else. I'd let me know if I'm the only one who's seen this, and maybe I'm batshit crazy, but sometimes I feel like I will land a certain sort of combination on my opponent, and it's like they cast some sort of Yu-Gi-Oh card which rebounds damage onto me, and all of a sudden I've landed 3 shots while they've thrown nothing, and I get rocked. And that's another crazy one, and I think that must be down to ping or something. So yeah, that's a massive problem in the game right now. In at number 6, I actually have a fix for it. Well, I think it would be sort of a fix. It'd still be there, and they'd have to remove it. But a fix for this would be a lobby. Because as of right now, you search for a game, and it puts you straight into a fight. You don't know who your opponent's going to be using beforehand. You don't know the ping. So right now, I would love to see a lobby. I think, first of all, the ping would be huge to see. Is it a good connection? Because if it's not, it's going to be bad. Like, for example, I actually fought Prioxis the other day. I'm going to be doing a video sort of talking about my revelations as I found fighting him. But he's from America, I'm from the UK, so of course the connection was dog shit. But, you know, that shouldn't be happening. I should be fighting UK people only, right? Or Europeans only, I should say. And I think if we had the ping, we'd be able to tell that we are fighting people from the same continent at least. So that would be great. I think the fighter selection as well would also be great, because personally, I do like using a lower fighter. I guess more than occasionally, I like to use them quite a lot. Like I'm using Cal Brook right now, and he's definitely a very underrated fighter in my opinion. But I think if you go into a game, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to use one of the top dogs here, and you see your opponent's using someone a bit lower rated, I am more occasionally going to use a lower rated fighter to kind of be more balanced, because I don't want an unfair advantage. And that's something that I would do quite a lot anyway, especially in like past games like EA Sports UFC, for example. So I think that would be kind of cool to see in this game, because I think it would balance out and it would give you different matchups, you know, less mirror matches, stuff like that. However, if you do have a lobby, you're going to have problems in terms of cherry picking and dodging. So I would like to see a lobby in which you do not know your opponent's name, you do not see a player card, you do not see their rank, their record, any of that. You don't see anything about them, you just see their fighter selection and the ping. Because otherwise you are going to have sort of things like where people are going to go into a game, they're going to have one emblem or whatever, which, you know, some of these top dogs are going to use to start dodging and cherry picking. So that's something I'd like to see, certainly. In at number 7, I think this would be a really sort of good thing for the console players, which I consider myself more of a console player than a PC player. It would be replays and fight save. So in terms of the game, I'd love to see replays right now as it is. That's not necessarily a console thing, but like after a knockdown, I'd love to see a quick replay of the shot I landed, which, you know, or the combination which I threw to drop my opponent. And then I'd like to see fight replays after the fight as well. Sort of like the knockdowns and big shots which landed, stuff like that. I think that would add a lot more sort of make it a funner experience, I guess you could say. I wouldn't want it like Fight Night where there's 3 replays and it's every time. It's your opponent's gonna watch it in full and then watch the next one in full and then watch the next one in full, because that was a bit toxic in my opinion anyway. But I'd also like a fight save where it would definitely be something which would be more important for console, because as you're on a PC, you can just record in whatever sort of system you want to record in, whether it's OBS or something like that. So you can watch back your fights and see what happened, where did I go wrong, what improvements can I make. I think that'd be something which would be really useful. Whether you could have like a fight save sort of bank, so you can save, I don't know, depending on how big the sort of files are, you could probably save between like 5 and 20 fights, something like that. I think that would be sick to see at any one time. At number 8, I want to talk about the AI. Personally, I don't play the AI too much, and that's for a reason. I don't think it's very good, but I've been told in the comment section that the AI does some funky stuff, like making you freeze and shit like that. So obviously that's got to be fixed, but also I would like to see the AI really be built in something we haven't seen really in a combat sports game before. I'd love to see fighters being really unique in their style. That's one thing which kind of drove me more towards multiplayer games, because I just don't feel like we've ever had an AI which is able to feel like I'm fighting a certain fighter. For example, you know, the fighters should all fight differently, but then they should also fight differently compared to, let's say, if fighters should be separated from a slugger should fight a certain way compared to a counter fighter. But then in terms of their rank, they should all fight differently to each other. That's what I mean. And that's something that I'd like to see in the game personally. Whether it happens or not, I very highly doubt it, because I've never seen it done before. At number 9, I'd like to see an update to prize fights. I think prize fights is a great idea, but the way it is implemented right now just doesn't really make too much sense to me. I think in terms of prize fights, first of all, it doesn't really tell you what it is. So like we have right now, we have like historic matchups and like fantasy matchups and real matchups which are happening in the future, stuff like that. And I think that's sick, but there should be a description for each fight. So for example, maybe you had the Gatti versus Ward one, and it's like, this is fight 1. You're going into the fight. Gatti's just been knocked down with a shot to the liver by Mickey Ward, but he's made it to the end of the round. Can you bounce back and win the fight like you did in real life? Or if it's a fantasy matchup, like Deontay Wilder versus Joe Louis, you know, and it could say Deontay Wilder's dream fight was Joe Louis. The Brown Bomber is one of his biggest idols. Can you beat the Brown Bomber using the Bronze Bomber? Something like that. And then I'd also like to see a system in which it says this is how you score points for the ranking and stuff like that. But then you also need something like a reason to play it, like rewards. So, for example, say we do the Deontay Wilder one I was just talking about. If you do that, you get a Deontay Wilder sort of player card. I think that would be something which would be interesting, kind of similar to the way EA Sports UFC does it. Otherwise, you could do rewards like, I know they're going to be having a store sort of thing. Maybe it could be like you earn tokens, like 5% off a fighter if you buy them or whatever. Stuff like that, which I think would make it interesting and rewarding for actually playing this mode, which I think overall could be a really fun mode. It kind of reminds me of UFC Undisputed 3 and the sort of fights and legendary fights you could do in that. That was kind of sick as well. In at number 10, this is something I haven't seen anyone really talk about at all. It's about the heavyweight division. I feel like they're quite in a challenging position, and I'm excited to see how it works out in the end, because right now we have a roster of heavyweights which I guess you could say would actually and should be really competitive with the names you've got up there. You got Frazier, Ali, Usyk, Fury, you got Joe Louis, Deontay Wilder, but I feel like it's dominated by 2 people, right? It's dominated by Fury and Ali. And it makes sense because they are very good. But a lot of the heavyweights who are going to be in this game are going to be of the past, and in the past, a lot of heavyweights were a lot smaller. So what I would like to see in the game is a historic heavyweight division. So maybe we have a cut-off point, maybe around like 2000. So you can have a heavyweight division of full fighters. So you have the full heavyweight division as it is right now with everyone. And then maybe you have a heavyweight division where it's cut off at like 2000. So maybe the tallest fighter is 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", whatever it is, right? But you're not coming up against 6'9" Tyson Fury, where the outside fighting is just crazy. And some of these fighters maybe would then be a bit more usable, like a Rocky Marciano. I feel like if I only had to go up against Ali and he was the only one who was troublesome, that would be more usable for me with Rocky Marciano. Obviously, I know this would be problematic because right now they took away divisions, right? Because you couldn't get fights quick enough. And I think that's probably one of the problems this game is going to have, and that's why the game is going to have to be, it's got to be cross-platform in my opinion. And if it is, then you should be able to use pretty much loads of divisions and still find a fight pretty speedy. So that's something I'd like to see anyway. At number 11, I'd like to see a change to the ranking system and the ranking fights. So I've played pretty much everywhere. I started at silver. I'm now in... what's it called? Before Undisputed, that one. I'm in version 3 of that, but platinum or something, right? So I would like to see something like, if you're in silver division, you fight bronze and below. Well, you can fight gold and bronze fighters only, right? And then you do it all the way up. So if you're undisputed, you fight undisputed fighters and platinum fighters only, right? And then I think that would be a way in which you could actually change the round of fights. So like, if I'm in bronze division, I fight 8-round fights. If I'm in gold division or platinum, I fight 10-round fights. And once you get into undisputed or platinum or however you want to do it, you can mix and match it really. You could do 12-round fights. I think this would be a fun version of the game. Kind of change it up a little bit. That's something I would like to see anyway. At number 12, I'm going to have something I'd like to see personally. Is a block sort of style modifier. I think especially, it's not too much of a problem when you're using someone with a textbook sort of guard. But when you're using someone using the Philly shell, as my opponent just went crazy on me and I kind of panicked and threw back. When you're using the Philly shell, I think you should be able to change to a more textbook guard. I don't think the Philly shell is necessarily a guard you should be using at all times. Especially if I've been hit to the head, maybe I want to bring up my hands, stuff like that, which you can do now, but you have to be static. Also, if you're kind of walking someone down, you've hurt them. I don't really want to be in my Philly shell now. I kind of want to switch at times. That's something I'd like to see. We have the footwork modifier, and I'd like to see a block modifier button as well. I think that would be something that's pretty interesting. On terms of the footwork, but I think we need to change this loose footwork in terms of some fighters shouldn't have it. Like, if we got Butterbean doing loose footwork, it doesn't make sense to me. Maybe what we could have for fighters who are maybe more pressure fighters or are known for going forward with their sort of style, instead of a loose footwork, they should have a pressure footwork, something like that, where they're quicker in terms of lateral sort of movement for cutting off the ring. I think that'd be something that'd be interesting. Anyway, we're getting towards the end of this fight. I'll give you the outcome right now. I'll win using Cal Brook. I think my opponent quit in the 11th round. And that is one of the problems with the game right now, right? Some of the bugs with the cherry picking and stuff. But let me know some of your thoughts anyway about the game in the comment section down below. I appreciate you guys for watching it. And if you have made it this far, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll bring out a video in the coming days of my fight with Proxys and talk about some of the things I've really learned in that game, because it really was an eye-opening experience. So until then, I'll see you later. Peace out. Take care.